and the pen and the ink. Yeah. So to that end, as I mentioned, if you're serious about this, at least in America, it's very important that you also
control. Anybody has questions, please. Yes. Go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question.
Please.
Yeah, firstly, I must say that we're really honored to have you on our group talking to us, because there's nothing like gaining experience, the sharing that you're doing. There's so much of knowledge that you part all the masters. So it's a real learning for our students. I would like to know that what was your main struggle when you started calligraphy? I would just like to understand that as calligrapher.
That is a great question. I would say, let me think about that. There's a number of different things that were very challenging. I would say that at the earliest point, there's a struggle against your own ego and the feeling that you know something about this art. It took me a long time to realize that I really had to be harsh with myself and remind myself that my work was not even close to good. And the only way that it gets from bad to better is through a lot of practice and just really struggling with the practicing. And it can be frustrating, it can be boring, but you can't go around it, you can't go over it, you just have to go through it. And that was a realization that I made that took months after I started with Zakariya, because I had been doing calligraphy on my own for a number of years before I started with my teacher. And I thought that I was a decent calligrapher. I wasn't. I didn't know anything. But I had this thought about about my own work in my head. And it took me a long time to realize that everything that I thought that I was not true. And that I have to break down my own sense of self and ego to zero, to nothing, and rebuild it up from the ground up with the knowledge that my teacher was giving me. That's one. Number two was when I was actually doing the meshq itself, when I was making my practices, it took me a while to realize that I was simply copying the mistakes that I was making in the previous attempt and just repeating the same error. So if I was just trying to, it's not a good way to do your meshq, but if you're just writing the same word over and over and over again on a page, what ends up happening is they all look the same and you've just copied your own mistakes again and again and again. And that's not it took me a while to realize that that's not a good way to practice, because it doesn't move you forward when you just end up making the same mistake over and over and over again. All it does is it makes that mistake that much harder to break, because that's kind of how you're used to writing it now. I'm thinking of just like when I was doing Rabbi Yesser. So that was a big challenge to realize. And then I guess lastly, it was the realization that this is really, it's not even millimeters that we're talking about in terms of the difference between good and great. It's a difference in micrometers. It's like the width of a hair. I would sometimes fail a lesson because the angle on a letter was like a hair's length in the wrong direction. So realizing that really being able to look at the tiny, tiny details of a piece, that's where the challenge lies. That's where the details are. That was very important for me to realize, that, it's not about the broad strokes. Once you've got the broad strokes, it's about the tiny details that make a piece, the difference between a good piece and a great piece. So those were major challenges for sure. Great question, by the way. Other questions?
Can I ask one more question, please, if there's no one else asking? Okay. Um, I see that when we are looking at other scripts like English, for example, like internationally, you see that calligraphers have innovated so many different ideas while doing those scripts. But to my knowledge, I always feel when we are doing Arabic, like the traditional Arabic calligraphy, so everyone's like the masters will always say, no, of course I understand that, we have to understand the rules, but is like, what I wanted to ask was, is it something wrong if we have to be innovative with the Arabic, like how in the English script you have various styles which are so interesting, which look so arty too. What about Arabic? Is it?
What a great question. Yes, this is something that I thought about and I think about all the time. When I first became interested in calligraphy in university, I came from an English calligraphy background, and it's the same. We have a million different fonts and styles of calligraphy, and I encountered traditional Islamic calligraphy, and I thought, okay, why are there, I know it's not 6, but they say the 6 scripts, and then maybe there's another 10 or 15 on top of that, maybe a little bit more. But the major classical scripts, there aren't that many, you're right. Why is it that the idea of innovation and developing new styles of calligraphy is not as popular or well-loved within the Arabic calligraphy community as it is in the Latin script world? And it's a really fascinating question. And ultimately, the story that I tell myself now, and people ask me this question all the time. Sometimes they're not calligraphers, sometimes they are, but they say, when I think about this question to myself, I say that, in this tradition, we're more interested in quality over quantity. So it's more about developing the scripts that we have and maintaining them and making sure that they continue to develop and continue to be beautiful, as opposed to, a scattershot of just inventing millions of new scripts. That said, there are new scripts being developed, and I think that their emergence is a really fascinating thing within the world of calligraphy. But what's fascinating to me is that most of it is happening in Iran. It's not happening in Istanbul. It's not happening in the Arab world. It's happening in Iran. And it's tied to graphic design, which has a very, very robust life in Iran, but it's also within kind of classical calligraphy done on ahar paper with kalams. If you look up scripts like Kereshme, it's a new script, less than 20 years old, that's now been adopted and is very well loved among a huge swath of calligraphers in Iran. I think that's a fascinating development. I've asked myself many times, why is it that there are so few scripts that are done so well? There's a lot of kind of secondary scripts or tertiary scripts that are, they're okay. There's not a lot of work in them, like Sunbuli, for example, is an example of such a script. But why not more? It's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for it. But I do think that process is happening. There are new scripts being developed. Whether or not they stand the test of time and are still with us in 100 years and 200 years, that remains to be seen. But I share your sentiment. I believe that there is room for innovation and creativity within the script. I don't personally think that I'm the person to do it, because again, who am I? I'm nothing. I should just focus on the classical and see what I can do with that, as opposed to, make a million scripts. I do some of my own scripts when I do contemporary work for clients, but it's not something that I would ever put forward as, this is a new style of calligraphy for the world or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing that you said, that you had to, come out of your ego and then, come over yourself and then practice. That is something which Ustad Mukhtar also always taught us, that when we get into calligraphy seriously, our whole personality changes. We become more patient, we become more disciplined. That is something which every calligrapher goes through. And the challenges that you've faced, the same thing I have faced, and other people also necessarily. Every student faces that, why their letters are not improving, all those things. So it's great to hear all these things, coming
Yeah.
from your perspective also.
Yeah, it's a universal experience. And that's one of the things that brings us together when we meet other calligraphers. We all have kind of had that same realization about ourselves and about our work and about the world of calligraphy that we live in. And especially when we either go to an archive or a museum and are able to see several hundred years of work right up close in front of our face and realize just how amazing the history of this art is and how much history there is. That's, I mean, it's an incredibly humbling and inspiring experience. I often think about these experiences. There's these two sides to it. One is that you see this incredible work and you're inspired by it to make your own work better. And then at the same time, you see this incredible work and you think, I'll never be able to get there. And so, you have to balance your emotions and your thoughts about it. But no, we work in an art that it's not every art that can say it has an unbroken 1,000-year history. That's a remarkable thing. And it's something that comes with a responsibility that we need to treat very, very seriously and give it the respect that it's due. And I mean, yeah, that's for me one of the most important things about working as a calligrapher and working in the world of calligraphy is just remembering who you are and what you're doing here. And it's not something to be taken lightly. It's not something that is like other jobs where, you leave your work at work. With this thing, it comes home. It's with you all the time.
Have you also started teaching now?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
I haven't started teaching. I've given some lectures and some just brief workshops, but I don't have any students that are actually learning on a regular basis. I go back and forth. I'm conflicted about whether or not I feel like I'm ready for it. On one hand, I feel like I should practice more. I should get more experience before I start teaching. On the other hand, I've also heard from many of my friends that who have, who I knew as students, received their ijaza and then started teaching students themselves, that you learn so much as a teacher. When you actually have to communicate it to another person, then it becomes very real and you have to really know what you're talking about. That said, I'm still a little bit hesitant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a true thing. Once you start teaching, we will understand more because of the responsibility to giving explanation to others.
Yes.
So that's a true, very true.
Yes, this is something I've heard from everyone, and I agree. But yeah, there's a degree of responsibility that comes with having students, and I'm still waiting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I love your workshop. I think in US having a work desk like this is something amazing. It's pretty amazing. I feel like I want to come there and see everything in detail.
You're welcome anytime.
Yes,
So welcome.
surely will come, inshallah.
Yeah. Are you all based in Bangalore?
No, we are right. I was in Bangalore before, but now due to COVID and everything, all the students have spread out, and mostly we are doing online.
Right.
Few students are there in Bangalore now, and some of us are Yes, sir.
Just the people who are in this meeting, ma'am, Salwa ma'am is from Mumbai, and some people from Hyderabad, some of friends from Odisha. There are different states. almost, I think we have many other states people here. Only few from Bangalore.
Wow. So all over India. MashaAllah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I think because of the pandemic, it gave us an opportunity to have the best of masters, like, I mean, coming online and teaching us also. So this is a great opportunity, which never happened before. We
Yeah.
had to personally go to the master and do it. So now it's online, it's become very convenient.
Yeah. That's one of the silver linings, I think, of this past.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes.
Ustad Josh, you should write an article or something about, your whole experience and about the history that you have come through. Whatever you could gather in English language, if you could present it, it would be very amazing for the people who are joining now. There are many people, English-speaking people who are actually into this right now, and we find very less resources like how you did. And many of us don't understand Arabic also, but if you write something in English, that will be really great, even if it's something small.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm waiting for Ustad Mukhtar's book to come, because he's the master in the room. But I agree. There's just so little written in English, and unfortunately, you have the opposite problem now, where you've got some books in English, but they're wrong. They're not right.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. There's a book, inshallah, coming out about my teacher, Muhammad Zakariya, and I've written an article about for that book, but I'm excited for when it comes out. Hassan Chalabi also has an article in it.
When is it expected?
Sometime in the next few years.
Next few years.
Yeah. They're still looking for a, they haven't decided if they're publishing in America or in Istanbul.
Okay. That's nice.
But when it comes, I'll make sure to have some sent to you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Mohib, I think time is going up.
Yeah.
So before it's end, I would like to thank you to Ustad Josh coming and sharing his experience. It's a really very, very important knowledge we have gained today. Thank you. we would like to have some more time, inshallah. Ma'am, you're going to say something, please.
I was just wanting to know that, when I had visited the MoMA gallery in New York, like, I mean, now they've started with the Islamic art also. They've got a special section over there. So when we are doing calligraphy, like when we are learning, just doing the script, isn't there, like, I mean, shouldn't there be an encouragement even for the arts along with the traditional way of writing? Like, I mean, so that there are more people who are participating in this, so that it becomes, I don't know, I don't know whether I'm expressing myself clearly.
In that we should be supporting
modern art.
Modern, yeah.
Modern art.
It's not exactly modern art, because there's a lot of kind of art. Like, I mean, even there is, like, I mean, all sorts of art which is there. Like, and now there are so many galleries that are opening up with Islamic art, like, if you see. So when we are doing just the script, when we are learning, is there, like, I mean, shouldn't there be more encouragement even for the arts part of it?
It's an interesting question, because I think that you have to look at classical calligraphy within Islamic arts is kind of like the classical violin within music. It's in general, right? We're trying to do a very specific thing that has a right way and a wrong way. And there's lots of other kinds of music out there, but there's only one classical violin. And so for me, I could be doing Arabic graffiti or Arabic, big canvases with, Islamic themes, but like not classical calligraphy, not done with a reed pen on paper, and that's very popular. And I think that that's a really important gateway to get more people into calligraphy. And it certainly was my gateway in some ways, and many people that I know within the traditional world of calligraphy came in through a modern art lens. But I think that ultimately there has to be a world for the classical that is kind of separate from the more contemporary. And you have people who are doing both. I mean, if you look at Sabah Harbili, who's an Iraqi artist now based in Doha, he's an amazing classical calligrapher, one of the best, but his stuff is all modern now. He's doing sculptures and massive canvases and all kinds of very, very contemporary stuff. And so he straddles both worlds, but not all of us can be there and do both things simultaneously. And I think that what is more common to happen is that when someone tries to do both, they end up not doing either very well. That's just my observation. But I agree. I think that we're at a really interesting point with a lot of people coming into the art and a lot of people entering the art and being interested in it. But once they get there, they don't know where to go. And they don't know how to find a teacher, and they don't know what to do. And so I think that there's a lot of challenges for us, especially outside of kind of the center of calligraphy, for all of us out here in the other countries. But yeah, great question, Salva.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Hello. Hello, Mumbai. I think we got some additional time. If I'm not wrong, I think we are past 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The meeting.
Yeah. So yeah, if I can ask one question.
Yes, please.
Sir Mukhtar allows and you allow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, Ustaad Josh, I saw him first interview with the African community. Actually, I think the interview was there for an hour or so. So that is when actually I got to know him, and then probably followed him in Instagram or something. I think that is the introductory part for me. What I like to ask is, since this calligraphy is all to do with all classical things, be it teacher or student relationship, be it the script itself, and with the passage of time, now we see in the fast-paced world, like students are coming in with certain expectations, like it's kind of any other art or something. They get fascinated with seeing somewhere, and they feel that okay, this probably for some few months they can learn and stuff like that. So how would you define the student and teacher relationship with your own experience, and then what would you advise to the new calligrapher, because calligraphy students for particularly, because we have different stages of students within our community who are just starting Rabbi Yasir, some are in Mufradat and Murakabat, some are just going to get the ijazas also, like they're almost there. So what would be your advice on this both aspect?
This is a great question. I'll try and be quick with my answer because I know we're pressed for time. So like I mentioned, as a student of my teacher, I saw many, many students come, submit a lesson, maybe two, never seen again, because they're impatient. And calligraphy doesn't take 20 minutes to learn. The learning curve is not measured in hours, it's measured in months. And the most important thing for me is just persistence and patience and the realization and the understanding that the system works if you work it. If you do the lessons and you continue to be patient and be receptive, you will make progress. And you listen to your teacher's advice, you will make progress. It won't be instantaneous. It won't be in a week or a month or even a year, but it will happen. And there's a really, I mean, look, not everyone gets to be a calligrapher. That's just the fact. Not everyone was meant to be a calligrapher. And even if they were, there isn't enough calligraphy to go around, but you can't support everyone being a calligrapher. So it's important that people try it, realize it's not for them, and move on to something else. But the people for whom it is right for, they'll know it because they stay with it and they'll persist with it. And the love it only grows stronger with that persistence. So if you're at the very beginning, just writing Rabbi Yasser, I would say you just have to stick with it and realize that you're going to be doing that for a long time, and you may not pass for even years, but you will pass and you will get there because this system is proven to work. And we know that because we're going on 600 years of it working. So just give it the time that it's required and give it the respect that it needs, and you will make that progress, is the best advice I can give. And trust that Ustad Mokhtar is the real deal, and he will guide you to the right path.
There's no
Without
doubt in that.
I'm also learning with my students.
yeah.
Was that just one small thing? How much? How did you find the humbleness of people in calligraphy? Like how Ustad Mokhtar is being humble right now among the teachers. How humble are they?
That's one of the most inspiring aspects of the calligraphy community.
Yeah.
If you find people who are not humble and they brag about their own work, chances are they won't be part of the community for long, because that type of personality doesn't last. Nor is the community receptive to it. They don't have time for it, and they know that it's not the right kind of attitude. And so, I mean, when I'm sitting at the feet of Hassan Chalabi, the greatest calligrapher alive today, and he makes a comment to his students about how he doesn't know much, or how he's still learning. I mean, come on,
yeah.
Being humble and realizing your own fallibility and humanness in the face of this art is a requirement for your own success, if not the feelings of your students. It's lazim.
So Josh, I would really like to thank you that you joined us. I was actually, I was getting goosebumps, with the passion that you were talking, how you came into calligraphy. I was having goosebumps, and I really enjoyed, you being in America, and you'll not have the same background as normally what we would see. We'll recite the verses, we'll read Quran, we'll see calligraphy somewhere. So that's how we get into calligraphy. But the way you got into it, really amazing, and with the passion that you spoke, I really loved it. That's why I just wanted to thank you. You joined us, you explained, you shared your experience, and really these sessions, even though the members are less, but I think it leaves a very big impact. It was a very qualitative session. I loved it, and I'm sure everyone else loved it. Thank you for joining us. In future, inshallah, more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great learning. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Bye.
I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And best of luck. Thank you. Talk soon. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.